Okay, if everybody's ready, I'll call this meeting of the Urbana Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission meeting to order Thursday, January 28th at 7:14. Could we have a roll call?
Bill Brown.
Here.
Shannon Branek.
Here.
Amy Adams.
Here.
Audrey Ishii.
Here. Sorry.
Susan Jones.
Here.
Cynthia Hoyle.
Present.
Nancy Westcott.
Here.
Sarthak Prasad.
Present.
Jeff Marino.
Here.
Kara Dudek.
Here.
And I think I saw Lily's on the call. Is there a member of the public present as well?
Deborah Liu is present in the attendee list.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thanks. So next is approval of the agenda. I think we can drop the annual report draft. I'll do that next time. That wasn't quite ready anyway. I think we have enough with the other items, and with the late start, that'll be fine. Any other additions or corrections to the agenda? If not, could someone make a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
I second.
Moved by Sue, seconded by Audrey, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, could we have a roll call for that?
Bill Brown.
Yes.
Shannon Branek.
Yes.
Amy Adams.
Yes.
Audrey Ishii.
Yes.
Susan Jones.
Yes.
Cynthia Hoyle.
Yes.
Nancy Westcott.
Yes.
Sarthak Prasad.
Yes.
Jeff Marino.
Yes.
Kara Dudek.
Yes.
That motion carries. Next is approval of the minutes. If everyone got a chance to read those, are there any corrections to the minutes from November? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Go ahead.
Moved by Audrey, seconded by Cynthia.
Yep.
Give a roll call.
Bill Brown.
Yes.
Shannon Branek.
Yes.
Amy Adams.
Yep. Yes.
Audrey Ishii.
Yes.
Susan Jones.
Yes.
Cynthia Hoyle.
Yes.
Nancy Westcott.
Nancy?
I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't catch that, sorry. Sarthak Prasad.
Yes.
Jeff Marino.
Yes.
Kara Dudek.
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. Next is public input. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak? Deborah, I don't see a hand. There, okay. Deborah Liu, should be able to unmute now.
Thanks, Bill. I was just going to say, I don't really have anything new to say. I I was thinking about reading the comment or reading the statement that I made to at the last city council meeting. But in this crowd, it's really just preaching to the choir. But I'm going to read one paragraph out of it. I want to be extremely clear. Bad road design killed Tonya Barrett, and the city bears the responsibility for bad roads. It is completely possible to design roads that protect pedestrians and vulnerable road users from cars, but the city has consciously failed to do so. Furthermore, when traffic deaths and serious injuries occur, the city consciously decides to bury their head in the sand. When Shelley Taylor was struck and killed in broad daylight in downtown Urbana by an unimpaired driver whose only defense was that he didn't see her, this council hired a consulting firm to tell you what you wanted to hear and to say that the design of the intersection was safe. The city bears the responsibility for the completely avoidable death of an Urbana resident, and this council bears the responsibility of every traffic death that occurs. That's all. There was a lot more. I was pretty mad, but that's the essence of it. And I think everyone on this council agrees bad road design is what kills people. Drivers make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. But it's possible to design roads that are mistake-proof, that are self-enforcing, and the city consciously decides not to do that. That's all. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Commission.
Speaking of that, Bill, I don't know where we want to put this in our discussion tonight, but I think we have a responsibility to ask about the pedestrian fatality on Main Street, which was clearly an issue with the infrastructure. And we don't have all of the facts yet, but many of us know this street lacks sidewalk. The city inherited it. We don't have right-of-way beyond the street paving along most of it, and it doesn't have street lighting. And she was coming home and at a bus stop, crossing the street to go to the mobile home park. And that's about all we know at this point. But people should not be run over and killed because they get off a bus and cross the street to go home. That's just inexcusable.
Yeah.
And so we need to figure out how we're going to improve the safety at those locations.
Okay. That's why I put the revisiting KRT connectivity study, the 2018 study on there.
Oh,
So
good.
I want to take another look at those three recommended options, and maybe they didn't recommend one option. They left it up to what was available as far as funding and opportunities go. And I think if we look at those three, there might be one that we prefer now.
Great.
That we know more. And so that's actually next on the agenda. So let's just go to that. I need to share my screen.
Okay.
If I can. Which one is it? Okay, so that's my agenda, right? Okay. So you may remember this was a couple years ago, but the point of this study was to make a connection. Can everybody see that okay? Okay, to make a connection from the KRT terminus where it terminates now by Walmart to Weaver Park. And some of the alternatives connect various ways. So I'll just go, let's see, I think page 32 is the first one. Well, they did have some of the crash analysis from earlier. The pedestrian crashes were those 6 locations. I think there were 2 bicycle crashes. Had some pedestrian counts, but not on Main Street there where the crash was because there's no sidewalks there. there were the bicycle crashes, whereas on Washington Street. And there were 9 alternatives. I'm trying to find that one. Okay, first, this is a good one.
Bill, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
The pedestrian crash that it showed on Main Street, was that a serious injury or a fatality?
That was not. It was a sea level injury.
That's what I
think that-
thought. Okay.
So this was the first public workshop. There were, I think, 25, 35 people there. Yeah, I remember seeing it in there somewhere. I think there were at least 25, maybe 35 people there. And this option was one of the most selected, the one that would have a side path along Main Street there. The next two were just continuing the trail where there's no trail now, and some of the right-of-way would need to be purchased from the railroad. And then coming down either Smith Road or continuing Baker's Lane. You may remember that Baker's Lane, you can see my mouse kind of there, can't you? Okay, Baker's Lane runs along the east side of Weaver Park, and we applied for a ITEP grant this year to try to get funding for that. I don't think we'll know for a couple more months at least. But that would go up to here. The grant doesn't continue. So it still wouldn't be connected. So even if we get that, it would be a good start to connect points farther south. But you'd still have the 3 main options that were recommended was the side path along Main Street, the Smith Road connection to the trail, and then the other one would be this cross part here to just go straight across on Baker's Lane with an improved crossway there. So here were the 9 proposed things. So the 3 I'm talking about that were recommended were number 2, number 4, and number 3 was the other recommended one too. So yeah, 3 would be go across Smith Road where the new stop sign is at Main Street here. Number 4 would be continue Baker's Lane across. And both of those would involve building out the rail trail. And then alternative 2 would just be the side path along Main Street. So they analyzed all the pros and cons. So let's just look at a couple of those. This is alternative 2. This is the one that would be the side path on Main Street. So there you get a look at it by itself. Yeah, right now the side path the side path ends at Weaver Park there, but then there is a bike lane on Main Street that goes to about there. So that might be why they started it there. But actually, when they did the analysis, it was the half mile. The half mile goes from Weaver Park all the way. This is showing there is about 1/3 of a mile. The crash, if you're not familiar, happened here. The recent fatality happened here at Dewey Street. And I do have another picture from Google Maps that shows bus stops. This bus stop, I sent a note to the police because I looked up the bus schedule on, at the exact time basically of the crash, or maybe a minute before. The bus was coming from Walmart and stopped there. I think it was the silver or gray, I don't remember. But one of them stopped there, and then the police report said she was walking from north to south across Main Street. And there's no light there. The closest light is at Scottswood, closest street light. So yeah, no sidewalks, no lights. And multiple bus stops. And that's probably why there's so many bus stops there. Normally you don't see now bus stops every block because they've reduced them. But because there's no sidewalks here, there is a dirt path that's worn on the south side of Main Street there. But because there's no sidewalks there, they don't want to be dropping people off once here in the middle of the night and making them walk, to these connector streets. So that's probably why they stop so often. If there was a sidewalk there, they wouldn't have to have all those bus stops. And I think that's a factor that's not mentioned in the KRT connectivity study. They didn't mention bus stops. So I think that's something that if we make a recommendation, we could point that out, that bus stops weren't considered as part of this study. So that would be another positive, that it would improve connectivity to bus stops. So each of these,
Bill, yeah, will you go back up where it says talks about the right-of-way acquisition there under constraints?
yeah,
There you go.
yeah, there's some constraints. Let's see, I do have, so there you can see the city boundaries
Mhm.
go up to here, and then it becomes a county or township road. But the city is still responsible for maintaining it. So I'm not sure exactly what the arrangement is there. So there might be something to work out with the township, but there is some right-of-way. You can see there that the right-of-way goes beyond.
Okay.
There's a ditch here. That's the main thing. There's a ditch that would have to have a culvert in it. You would have to buy some right-of-way probably, but not all of it. I mean, a lot of it's owned. So I don't know, how much you'd have to buy. You'd have to buy some. The main thing is the ditch. You'd have to put a culvert in there and build on top of it, and it would be expensive.
Is there any discussion? I know there was a discussion years ago when this came up. I said someone's going to get killed in this section. I see people walking from Walmart. They have phones that they hold so people can see when they're pushing their babies, that maybe people will see them. I said we need to lower the speed limit. It's low lighting. We need to lower the speed limit. And I was told, nope, we have to increase the speed limit. And so this woman would not be dead if the speed limit had been lowered and the driver were driving the legal limit. She would have had a 50% chance of living. And I don't understand why we cannot do a different type of road design here. I do not know why we have to have, if it's not possible to keep our residents safe with a two-way, high-speed, low-lit area, why we don't make it more uncomfortable for our drivers so they have to drive slower, and we make it into more of a rural road design. And that would give plenty of shoulder on either side for people to be able to walk, bike, and push their babies to and from Walmart. And it's very, very upsetting to me that we just continue to act like this didn't happen. And that, I remember when Craig was here, I said, Craig, someone is going to die. Like, this is no joke. Someone's going to die. And he was like, no, we have to raise the speed limit in that area. We just have to. Nothing we can do about it. And so to me, it's like there are simple, low-cost things that we can do immediately. So I guess that's my issue.
Speed limit is another thing we could talk about, but we have this study with the engineering, or the study pretty far advanced. The engineering would be next, and there are grant opportunities involving transportation funding, which wouldn't apply to the recreation funding, that we could take advantage of in the near term to get a good solution for not only people walking next to the road, but connecting the KRT, for pedestrian commuting traffic to bus stops, all those things. You can make the same argument about a lot of different streets in town where speed could be an issue. We don't know if it was an issue in this case. We don't know if that person was going 10 miles per hour. There may have been lights in their eyes. There's just a lot you don't know about this. I think the easiest thing and the most credible thing to do at this point is, from the report we have, they were walking from north to south. It was dark. They'd probably just gotten off the bus, and that's about it. The person that hit her said she couldn't see her. So I don't know. You can assume, and it's probably a safe assumption, that the speed limit was lower and somebody was driving slower. It might not have happened, or it might not have killed the person. But what we know is that light was a factor, the darkness was a factor, the fact that there were so many bus stops there was a factor. All these crashes, you got to keep in mind, have more than one thing contributing. There has to be multiple things going wrong before somebody dies. I know from experience in my crash that there were 3 or 4 things that could have happened. Any of those three or 4 things could have happened differently, and the crash wouldn't have happened. So I think, in this case, visibility, lighting, bus stops, all that stuff, with responsibility on both sides. Not that, don't call it victim blaming, but everybody has an opportunity to reduce the number of crashes. So let's keep going with this. I think we have an opportunity to make a recommendation here in the short term that can have an impact. We can talk about, speed limits all over town. It would make as much difference on Washington Street as it would here. We know there are a lot of dangerous places in town.
Well, I think what Annie's mentioning is the statistic that if the person's going, even now, given that someone's hit, okay, it does sound like this hit was almost, I hate to say it, but given the infrastructure, given the bus, given the infrastructure, including the darkness, it was almost inevitable. This person stepped out from behind the bus, I believe. I went up there, I walked over there, and I talked to people there. Okay, so she got hit. If you're given that you're hit at 30 miles per hour, 5 out of 10 will survive it. At 40 miles per hour, 1 out of 10 will survive it. We're talking exponentially different for 10 miles. And I bet it's a sure bet that the driver was probably doing 40, given that it's 35 and she didn't expect anyone there.
Hey, I'm going to jump in here real quick. I just want to state this accident and crash is still under investigation by UPD, and it would be best for the city as a city body to not interject feelings and what we may think happened without evidence.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, yes, I'm giving you the statistics on speeding and surviving a crash. If the person was doing 20 miles per hour, 9 out of 10 chance that she would have survived. Okay, 30 miles, it's 50% chance. 40 miles, it was a 10% survival chance. So I think speed, yes, speed all over the city is an issue. But if you have a place where people are getting hit, you have got to look at that and that's got to be the first targeted speed reduction until we get the entire city going at a more civilized rate. We've got way too many pedestrian fatalities. We're one of the worst in the nation. It's unbelievable for a city of our size. And this may not even count as our statistics because it's outside the city limit. It probably won't even be counted. But it's unbelievable how many pedestrians we're mowing down in this city. We're way above Boston, for example, which is unbelievable if you see how Boston people drive.
So, Bill, I think it would be good for us to continue to look at the recommendations in the study, but I'm thinking that we probably need to make recommendations both for the longer term things that we think need to happen and some shorter term. And I think shorter term, we could easily say that the speed limit is something that we could address, and that would have to go to Traffic Commission, of course. And I don't know if we can forward recommendations to Traffic Commission or not. I don't know that we've ever done that before, but it might be something we want to consider as part of this. But I agree with you. I'd like to go through this, decide if we want to recommend that they put in the side path or whichever recommendation we want as a long-term goal for changing the infrastructure. But I think we also need to look at the short-term changes that we can make before we have the money to change the infrastructure as dramatically as we think it needs to be changed.
I do wonder if streets with minimal lighting or no lighting should automatically or in some way have a lower speed limit. It seems to reason. That's why we have street lights, so people can see. And if there are no street lights, it would only make sense that in those areas they have a lower speed limit.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think there's a good argument for lowering the speed limit there. Somebody want to make a motion?
Well, do we want to make a motion that includes both long and short-term changes? I would like to have us include those things and not just do the short term. I mean, I guess we could do a motion for short term and then do a separate one for long term, but I think we should do all of those things and send it forward and maybe send it to Traffic Commission and City Council. So we need to look at the alternatives because we didn't really go through. We just got fit to the first one when we ran off the.
Yeah, if you want to continue, I was trying to build a case for making a recommendation for alternative 2. You know, all of them are pretty expensive. You know, the others would have to purchase and work with the railroad to purchase some of the railroad right away, and then what we already have would have to be, you know, turned into a side path. And again, when they went through the constraints and the opportunities, they treated them the same. They said in both cases, basically the side path provides pedestrians a safer opportunity than walking on the street and cyclists. But they aren't the same because this doesn't really serve a commuting function as much as maybe to get to Walmart or something, but not if you're taking the bus and getting on and off the bus, or if you're walking from this neighborhood, chances are you're still going to go this way than you would to go clear around to get on the path and then go around.
Yeah, the one, the not number 2 one is definitely more relaxing. There's not as many cutaways. It's much more recreational.
And it wouldn't exclude that, but it would just be, that would be a recreational connection.
Yeah.
It would hopefully be made, you know, at the same time the rest of the connection gets made to downtown Urbana. But this is a relatively short segment, a third of a mile, that would qualify for transportation funding rather than recreation funding, right. And provide the solution that was most requested by the people in the public meetings, and it was of the top 3, and I think with some adjustment of scoring for opportunities that we've identified, it would be in the top 2 at least.
Yeah, because we could also do some stuff, you know, there is that, like you're saying, there's that new stop sign infrastructure, but we could also, while we're doing that, you know, increase visibility at bus stops and increase, like, right, so it could become a really nice space for people to push their children and go for walks. And I do think eventually we could then move on to the Kickapoo Rail Trail. And that is what I initially wanted, that more recreational path. And then once I saw lots of small babies and parents and older people using that path every time I biked on it, I just changed my mind. I was like, we got to do the other one first. Oh, it's just the right social justice thing to do.
What I would like to alter our recommendation, because having the side path on one side would not have solved this crash. They still will not paint crosswalks at the bus stops because there's no sidewalk on the other side. So I think we need to have a sidewalk on the north side and the multi-use path on the south side, and crosswalks or some infrastructure that shows pedestrians crossing at the bus stops, and the lighting, which is not mentioned here. So I would want to alter that slightly, because this was just focused on the Kickapoo Trail. It was not focused on the issue that we're addressing here of the safety of people who live along this stretch of roadway. And I realize these are not people who live in the city limits, but we have a responsibility, since it's our roadway, for it to be safe regardless of who's using it.
And if we, I was gonna say, if we want like University of Illinois students, you know, to ride this path and you know, go through our downtown and You know, we want to say it's an amenity to our city. It's, you know, it really is important that we get this right and we don't keep trying to put people on this really busy road. I don't want to say it's a busy road because it's actually not a high traffic road. It's just designed for, it's designed for way more traffic than it handles, and the speed's very high. That's all.
And I like the idea of having more, having some transportation in the thinking, because it helps people get past the idea that cycling is a thing you do on a path for fun and not a thing people do to get from place to place.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm open to the sidewalk on the north side. Obviously, that'd be great. I was thinking that with the connection on the south side, it's possible that MTD would reduce the number of stops and might be able to have a crosswalk. Would they put in a crosswalk if they just put in a bus pad there?
Maybe. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at what the standards are, but people are going to have to cross the street because the bus can't just go one way.
And yeah. Okay.
Well, I also think we should consider it an equity issue.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely lighting would go with this. If it's a transportation trail, they do let you put lighting in the funding request. So I don't think I really need to go through this. I think.
Well, I'm happy to take a stab at a motion. So I would like to move that we make a recommendation to the City Council and the Traffic Commission for the following short and long-term improvements to improve safety and provide equitable access to transportation and mobility. And short term, we would like to see the speed limit lowered. We would like to see signs installed that say, bicyclists may use full lane, any other appropriate signage to indicate there are pedestrians and bicyclists to motorists, and that we investigate the opportunity to put in street lighting if that's an option before we can change the infrastructure. Long term, we would like to recommend the city apply for funding and redesign the roadway to include Alternative 2 in the Kickapoo Weaver Park connectivity study, with the addition of a sidewalk on the north side and safe crossing for pedestrians at bus stops.
I'm not going to make you say the whole thing again, but bikes may use full lanes already exist on the street.
I'm sorry, I meant the 3-foot passing sign. That's what I was thinking. You're right, Shannon.
Cynthia, there's nothing right now where if like a bus drops a person off, there's some sort of.
Well, I need a second.
Oh, so I would second that. I just have a question before I second that. There's nothing right now that for example, I know they're not insanely effective, but it's something. When people try to cross streets, there can be there's like a pedestrian sign that lights up and lets people know that there's a pedestrian trying to cross the street. There's nothing like that. I mean, that could be an inexpensive, I don't know. I don't know. It's just, I was just curious if you'd ever seen anything like that. But yeah, I'd second that.
Okay, it's been moved by Cynthia and seconded by Annie to recommend a short-term and long-term solution, long-term recommendation for the East Main Street corridor, with short-term including speed limit reduction, additional signage and street lighting, and the long-term including recommending alternative number 2 for the KRT connectivity, with the addition of a sidewalk on the north side of Main Street and safe crossing for bus stops. Does that get it? Okay. Any discussion on that?
Hey, Bill, do you know off the top of your head, was this shown in the bike master plan, this area? And were there any recommendations in that that were called for improvements on this stretch?
I don't recall.
There were some recommendations for improvements. I'll see if I can pull that up and we can circle back to it.
Am I correct in remembering it was also labeled as a zone for further analysis?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's right. Yeah.
That's right.
So this would be consistent with the bike master plan, this long-term and short-term recommendation?
That's a good question. But the bike plan was just looking at bikes, and what we're talking about includes pedestrians. And our pedestrian plan did recommend a lot of changes in infrastructure. I cannot remember if it addressed this section of roadway. And that's a good question.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of remember that it was a area for further study, because I think at the time they knew that at least the connectivity study was probably, we were thinking about doing that. We didn't have the money to do the other study.
Yeah, it was a proposed 0 to 5 year network path study area. So I was just looking at it here. And that went from, it looks like close to Glover all the way down to the entrance to the rail trail.
Okay. Yeah. And that was actually the general area that was, well, actually, I think the connectivity study started on the west side of Weaver Park, which is close to Gulliver. Anyway, so yeah, I think it's consistent with the bike plan. The pedestrian plan, I don't know if it even covered that area since it's not in the city. It might have. I can't imagine it would be inconsistent with the pedestrian plan, but.
Yeah, no, I guess maybe one part of me is thinking that you'd hate to prioritize this just because there was a recent incident over like long-term strategic goals that we had. I'd already identified those other plans, but absolutely, I agree that, you know, these improvements need to be made. And, you know, given factors, you know, you can rearrange your priorities based upon the, you know, current circumstances. So yeah, I would be in favor of this. And, you know, if we need to revisit what the bike master plan or the pedestrian plan says, you know, it's something maybe we can look at in the future.
Yeah, I think that's kind of why I was trying to focus mostly on the KRT connectivity study, because that was something that was already done and it had these alternatives and there hadn't really been anything settled about it. So I wanted to at least point out that we can have an impact by saying now we think that one of those stands out above the others. But I do think it's a good idea to have the short and long term.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the pedestrian plan, and it has objectives in there such as increase the amount of new sidewalks in Urbana by so many square feet. And then also under equity has implement at least 3 pedestrian infrastructure improvement projects and recommended in the sidewalk network inventory, and implement at least 1 short-term project proposed in this plan in each of Urbana's 8 neighborhoods by 2025. And I haven't gone through and looked at the specific recommendations, but it does look like there was something proposed for Main Street. And let me see if I can pull that in.
You know, along those lines also, Cynthia, I think the past couple of meetings we had been talking about kind of refreshing or taking a look at the CIP and where
Yes.
money was being allocated over the next couple of years in regards
Yes.
to infrastructure improvements and how those would align with the bike plan and the pedestrian plan and also this KRT plan. So I don't think we ever got you know, an update on that. So maybe in a future meet, I'd be interested in seeing an update on what projects are in the CIP, and you know, if there's something that needs to be tweaked there to prioritize these improvements, I would be in favor of that as well.
Because Bill, I just want to say, so it's a county road, but we are in charge of plowing it, salting it, striping it, lighting it. Like, we're in charge of there's no one else we can ask for money to do this, right? Because I know the last thing that happened on it was Craig had to raise the speed limit back up again to 35, or what, it's 30, 35, I forget. He had to raise the speed limit, and then he did that really nice striping job. So when you come off when you're on a bike, or you're on a bike, probably walkers.
Crossing in.
Yeah, that nice crossing there. So, but that would have probably, it sounds like the city of Urbana, the county was not helping us pay for that. It sounds like it was all city of Urbana.
Yeah, we didn't pay for that. I think we did have to kind of coordinate with them or get permission from them or something, if I remember right. But I don't think they helped pay for it. I think it's our.
Yeah, because I know with the speed limit, he was really constrained. Because I was like, we just should not be raising it back up. And he's like, it's just where we're at. And I was like, wow, okay.
Well, that stop on the road at least helps slow people down more than not having it there.
Could you remind me what the CIP plan is?
The capital improvement plan. So every year it gets updated, and usually they at least do some planning at least 5 years out, sometimes a little bit longer. But usually there are certain projects that are recommended to go forward the first year, the second year, third year, fourth year. So we do have that as a future topic to kind of go through that and see what kind of pedestrian bicycle projects are going to be included and what kind of funding sources there are for those, as well as ongoing funding. There's a small amount I know for bicycle, or for both, for bicycle and sidewalk maintenance mostly. Usually the new construction involves grant funding, but not always. But yeah, that's a future topic. Hopefully we can do that pretty soon, because they should be working on that now, right, Shannon?
Yeah, we're working on it, but it is not anywhere near ready to go yet. I mean, it's still in bits and pieces, and we're putting it together. So.
Okay, well, that's kind of what we're here for. If you want some input before it's ready to go, we're always willing to provide that.
We're not even to the project level yet, so.
Okay.
So, Bill, I was just looking at the pedestrian plan, and that section along Main Street did show a priority of at least, in some places, highest priority, and then high priority for that section. So it is in the pedestrian plan as well. It did not show the crossings, and so I think that's something that we'll want to, talk about some more.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, all these things, all these plans that we've done, we do for a reason, and it's so that we can prioritize things. So when something like this happens, you'll get more into it with the Vision Zero stuff probably, but it's not like we're making things up as we go along and all of a sudden we're jumping on it. We're looking back at the plans and seeing, are they still current? Are they relevant to what we know occurred here? And if not, let's shuffle things around and increase the priority if it deserves it. Because we know there's needs all over town.
Right. But when people get killed, then it does raise the priority. It also does provide us with the ability to apply for grant funding with a greater likelihood of it being funded.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the sad fact, is they weigh things higher. They wait for the deaths and then they weight things higher. Okay, let's vote on that. Could we have a roll call? This is on the 2 recommendations.
Bill Brown,
Yes.
Shannon Brannock,
Abstain because I work for the city and I don't really want to direct city work to myself. I don't think I can. So,
Annie Adams,
Yes.
Audrey Ishii,
Yes.
Susan Jones,
Yes.
Cynthia Hoyle,
Yes.
Nancy Westcott,
Yes.
Sarthaf Prasad,
Yes.
Jeff Marino,
Yes.
Kara Dudek,
Yes.
Okay, that motion carries. I'm sorry, Deborah, I just saw you have your hand up. Did you want to say something? Are you there?
Thanks, Bill. I don't know what the rules of order are for allowing a member of the public to jump in and out because, you know, I'm not officially BPAC. But look, there could have been 50-foot sidewalks on either side of the street, and this woman still would have been killed because she was crossing the street. Like I'm all for lowering the speed limit, but the research shows that people disregard the speed limit when they travel, unless there's a cop parked there. They travel as fast as they feel safe traveling on the road, on what the road is designed for. And if you look at Main Street, it is a wide, flat road with no obstructions on either side. When, you know, a member of the public sees that, they're going to travel at 40 miles an hour, right? Like there are sections of Lincoln Avenue where the speed limit is 35 miles an hour, which I feel like is a joke, right? Like most cars travel at like 50 miles an hour because Lincoln Avenue is a huge, wide, flat road, so they treat it like a highway. It doesn't really matter what the speed limit is. You have to design the road to get drivers to slow down. And like, you know, we're talking about, you know, like multi-use path, you know, funding, and like these are, you're nibbling at the edges. This is not the problem. You could implement everything. You can implement all of the multi-use paths. You can implement all of the signage in the bicycle master plan tomorrow, right? Like, you know, you find this magical pot of money, all of it happens tomorrow. And the infrastructure in this town still would not be safe enough, right? You have to think 8 to 80. Would you let an 8-year-old that you love cross the street alone, right? Would you let an 8-year-old that you love and their 80-year-old grandparent take the bus from Walmart and cross the street to go home? And the answer is not in a million years because it's freaking unsafe. Like you have to design for people, not for cars. And the street is not designed for people, designed for cars. And people blow down it because they feel safe blowing down it because when we designed this road, the city consciously said, this is not infrastructure for people. It's infrastructure for cars, right? You could do this tomorrow. Narrow this road to one lane, force cars to look for approaching traffic. And if they want to pass each other, they have to move to the side onto the shoulder to pass each other. Tomorrow, you could do this, right? And it would be like, I don't know how it would work for buses. Sorry, Cynthia, but like you have to break out of this mindset that you're thinking because it doesn't protect people. It nibbles at the edges. Okay. Anyways, sorry, I'll stop. Like you all know, this is a personal issue for me. Like.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I'll stop. Thanks, Bill. I appreciate you letting me talk.
Sure.
I'd
Okay.
like to say one thing about it. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay, so it is actually a very narrow street. I walked it and it's exactly 6 steps from the gutter to the center line and 6 more to the other side. I mean, it's very narrow. So it is rather shocking to me that it's at 35 miles an hour. I think it would be very easy to get people to slow down. And Annie, I don't know why you were told that he was forced to raise it. That's what engineering tried to force us to raise Race Street south of Windsor to 35 a number of years ago. And city council voted it down. I mean, engineering went out and said, oh, we did a study and the people are already blowing through there at 40 miles an hour and blah, 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 blah. And city council came back and said, no, it's gonna stay at 30. So I don't know where they told you that it had to be 35, but I think Craig was fond of that kind of gaslighting. So anyway,
I'm going to interject and ask us to please not talk bad about previous council members, regardless of personal feelings. That is inappropriate.
Okay, thanks. Let's move on to the next item on the agenda. So that's the update on Vision Zero. So Cynthia and Audrey, take it away.
Yeah, I had forwarded a question asking about how we share the documents that we were working on, and so I guess we can screen share and show you some of those documents. Do you have them pulled up on your computer yet, Audrey, or should I do that?
Yeah, I do.
All right. Yeah, we were looking at, as you know, the city passed the resolution, and we are hoping to have the U of I class this semester work on a communications and outreach plan for us. And Audrey did some work and put together some documents because we'd like to start moving forward on assembling the task force as sort of a parallel track while we do the other thing. And so I will let her take that away, and then we can chat about it. We wanted your input on who we're recommending for the task force, and sort of we had a timeline in our presentation that the student did for us in November, but we wanted to sort of take a look at that as well. And some of the materials, I know one of the other concerns that we've had is we would like to see materials posted on the city's website. And if it's not possible to have any of our materials posted there under topic of Vision Zero, we'd at least like to have a link to People for Safe Streets. And we, as members of BPAC, can then also share materials through that website with the public, providing more information on Vision Zero. And that may be a simpler way for us to get a lot of this information out quickly, because we understand there are constraints on IT staff and making changes on the website. So I will let Audrey take over from here.
Okay, do I need to do something to share screen?
You should be able to just click the green button. Do you see a green button at the bottom?
Yeah, at the bottom, you should be able to do that.
And you'll get some choices. Just pick the one that's what you want us to see.
Okay. Can you see it?
Not quite, but it looks like we can. Yep, there it is.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, my computer's pretty underpowered. Okay, so first of all, according to the timeline, which Guri had handed out in October, I believe it was that she spoke, we have February to start developing a communication strategy, and April to have the communication strategy operational and the task force kickoff. Now that might be ambitious given all that's happened, but and in June for starting the draft action plan. As you guys may remember, just having a proclamation from the mayor is not quite enough to be Vision Zero. We need to have at least a definite plan to create an action plan. It doesn't have to be in place, but we need to have a task force that includes, at a minimum, engineering, public works, and police and public health. So looking towards having that task force come together, we need to start thinking about who's on the task force. Now, the way our resolution was worded, I believe that BPAC is part of the task force. Is that correct? Okay, so we would need to decide then how much the people on BPAC are representing these other, and let me see if, I'm not sure if I can, I want to show this is just to show the invite. So I started chronologically, I started thinking, okay, we need to get a task force together. And I think it's good as we start the communication strategy to be thinking about who the audience is. And initially, it's got to be that task force. These are people who are influencers in our community. We really need to have them sold on Vision Zero and sold on a communications, part of creating the communication strategy even, but at least we need to have an initial one that sells them on the concept of Vision Zero. We can't expect that these people coming together from all parts of the community have any idea about the safe systems approach to traffic. You know, I think we're all very well aware of the general culture of traffic. Responsibility right now it tends to be on the individual driver or pedestrian rather than on the system as a whole. So that is just a gigantic paradigm shift for people that we need to be very convincing and again, these are so many people and so many influencers that we have to be very effective. We may not have a year to train them up. We hope to get them started right away. Now, you know, if it takes longer, it takes longer. We have to do the job right. But so starting with thinking about that, putting together that task force, I started with the invite, and then I realized, well, we better decide on what the meeting's agendas are and who's going to be on the task force. And so I think that it's, even as we're working on the communication strategy together, we need to be thinking about who that audience is. So I would like to look at the list, and I don't know how many people got it or have had a chance to look at it. Let's see if I can change what I'm sharing here.
You can, I've got it also, Audrey. I pulled it up.
Okay, I think this is it. No, sorry. Yeah, maybe,
Yeah,
maybe
that's it.
I can share that.
Yeah, you've got it. Although it's only showing.
I'll do the stop share. You can share.
You want me to share it? Okay, hang on.
Yeah.
Let me get back to full screen here. All right, full screen. Okay, and then I need to go here. And then we had, there.
I don't know
Right.
why mine was different. It would share only individual documents, not the whole screen.
Yeah, so can everybody see that now?
It needs to be bigger.
Okay, let me see if I can make that bigger.
We can't read it.
Here we go, view.
So these are the organizations?
Yes, it's a list of organizations, not individuals. Is that large enough, or I need to make it bigger?
I can't see it because it's all white, so I am looking at my phone if you're wondering what I'm doing.
Oh, okay.
I've got to have a black background, and I don't know how to make my desktop.
Oh, okay. All right, I'll move it up to 125%. Can everyone see it now?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
But though we can only read part of the list.
Right, well, we'll have to
Can you
scroll
make it-
down.
Can you make it full screen? Mhm.
So we had at the beginning here age-friendly Champaign-Urbana, which possible contact would be Chambana seniors.
Oh, actually, I changed that. I found out who's actually behind that. It's a U of I group coming out of the health department, and they have some contacts listed on their page.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right. And then MTD, then the Urbana School District, and the police department, of course, the Regional Planning Commission, and then PACE is another important group for us to have. Champaign County Public Health District, and Healthy Champaign County is a separate organization, but sponsored through Healthy Champaign County. So it's sort of like Safe Routes to School. The University of Illinois. Audrey had put on here the Urbana Human Rights Commission. I'm assuming I don't know if they're more involved in equity issues. If they are, that would be helpful. If not, that we may want to rethink that. Public Works. Community Development, Safe Routes, the Urbana Park District, Champaign County Bikes, the Traffic Commission, although we might be able to have the police department and the Traffic Commission representative be the same person. Maybe someone for People for Safe Streets, and the Urbana Business Association was the list that we had, and that Audrey really assembled for us. I know that some of these people are already completely on board. I know Public Health very much sees this as a public health issue. MTD certainly will. The school district and PACE has engaged in the past when they've been requested. I know the university wants to work on this. So I think we've got most of these organizations, we've already got a lot of buy-in from, and there is overlap. Of course, we're not a big city.
Cynthia, I saw the version that I sent out in the group email to everyone also included the age-friendly steering committee members, because a lot of those people would be just to help jog people's, thinking on this. There could be faith-based community representation, realtors. We probably need to look at getting also people representing. Oh well, we kind of have the age. On that list there was hospital representatives as well. So, and the person who represented.
Did you send that out, Audrey? Because I don't remember getting it.
Okay, maybe it went out to the wrong.
Did anybody else get it?
I got it.
You did?
I did too.
I sent it in a mass email. I sent it out in a mass email. And Cynthia, I think it was to your 57 email account.
Let's see if I can find it.
But anyway, really the point was just to give people an idea, not that we can exactly replicate that list, but they have Tim Bartlett on it representing the Park District. They really have a very high-powered group of people, and that this age-friendly Urbana is, Champaign-Urbana. So it's bigger because it's Champaign and Urbana. And they decided on just 3 focus areas for this year, which was communication, inclusion, and transportation. And then they have listed, and all of that's available at that website that's on there.
I think I have it if you want me to share it.
You want me to unshare? I can do that. Let me get back to.
I wonder if you want to add neighborhood associations. I think there's 8 in Urbana.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Is this the one you were looking for?
Yes.
Oh, good.
Thanks. I think neighborhood associations, I'll write that down. That's a good idea.
I know that Joan Dixon just retired.
Yeah, I didn't mean specifically these people. This was just to give us an idea of what people might, other ideas we might want to think around beyond the outside the box of transportation and police.
Yeah, I think neighborhood associations is good.
Yeah, because what we're really trying to do here is to, create a culture, shape a community culture of safety, as the Charlotte plan puts it, which is really, culture change. And it can't just be planning alone. It has to be influencers helping us with this.
Are we keeping the focus pretty much, except for public health, keeping the focus on Urbana, or are we going to try to involve people from Champaign? Or?
Well, the thought I had is if the agency's jurisdiction included Urbana, then yes, but I didn't include Champaign County, I didn't include the Champaign County Board because they don't really have jurisdiction over what happens in Urbana. I think they're sort of separate. RPC does have something to do with Urbana, so therefore RPC was included. So I don't know. That was just my thinking. If we could be bigger, then maybe we should be. I don't know. We are the leader in this, right? Locally.
Yeah.
And we know that the entire county has a problem. It's not just Urbana. And what's particularly appalling, you know, is this Burnett's death is probably going to be on the county statistics rather than Urbana. And the county's focus has not been on pedestrians and cyclists. And we've seen several deaths occur in the county that's not in the metro area.
I think this one actually was in the city limits and it was handled by Urbana Police.
Oh, it's in the city limits?
Yeah, I guess I still have that. Because this is city limits here. So it goes up to Ennis Drive.
Really?
It's just, you
Yeah,
know.
I think the street is, but not the surrounding
Right, this is the street there.
residential
Oh,
area.
just the street, okay.
Yeah,
So that'll be counted as, oh, that's why there's a tongue there, okay.
yeah.
The
I
ci-
finally found your email, Audrey. For some reason, it threw it straight into trash. So that
Oh.
would explain why I never saw it.
City limits includes a few houses here and a few there. Well, that's a mobile home area there, but
Oh,
then
okay.
it's along the street. But yeah, the crash was here, so it looks like that would be Urbana.
Oh, okay, so this city's got kind of a jigsaw,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Perhaps, you know, I don't know, perhaps we should talk, we have talked in the past about, I had not realized until the World Day of Remembrance. By the way, Charlotte held one as well, but I think ours was better. They had it on YouTube. But anyway, I had not realized until looking at the statistics for the World Day of Remembrance that the entire county really has a problem. That that there's been a real increase in deaths, in fatalities, pedestrian and bicyclists, and the reports that are written for the rural areas do not have an emphasis on that. You know, that's not one of their focus categories, and they need to, because it's really increased terribly over the last 10 years.
Yeah, Bill, would you scroll back up to the top? I think that yeah, because that's where you had in the different organizational contacts. So, all right.
Okay, so do you want to take the share back, Cynthia, if you found your stuff?
Sure, I can do that. I think, there we go. Okay.
Yeah, Audrey, I think a holistic approach is really wise. I mean, it's often something people talk about when they talk about corridors for animals. Animals don't, like, you know, nature corridors or whatever. Animals don't just suddenly stop and be like, oh, I'm leaving Yellowstone. Now I won't get killed. You know, now I'm open to being killed or whatever. Like, it's just, that's not how people move around.
Well,
So,
on the other hand, as a pilot, it might be very significant to realize, wow, now I'm in a Vision Zero city. I better hit the brakes. You know,
well, I think, yeah, and I think like the University of Illinois has done a great job with that as well. And so I think it's really nice that we can piggyback, you know, like that we can say, yep, it's kind of like, it's going to feel sort of how it feels to move around the University of Illinois. And
oh, right.
You know what I mean? Like I think that's a really nice way. It just makes it less scary for people. So yeah, I think it's good.
Can you all see the document that I've got on my screen?
No, I think you're just sharing your folder. You just shared the window rather than the whole screen. So we're just saying.
Okay, hang on. Let me get to here. I did the wrong window.
There we go.
Sorry. All right. And so in terms of organizing our action plan, Audrey pulled back up this information from Charlotte, and it's a very simple and clear way to approach it. It has these focus areas, and so we're suggesting that we may want to approach it the same way with our task force and creating our action plan. And also, I think to in working with the class and talking with the students, that this will also help frame their outreach, because these are the messages we want to put forward. We want to create safe streets for everybody. We want to have a culture of safety. We want it based on data and we want to use data analysis to get there. And we want to take a look at all of our organizational processes and policies that have a significant impact on the safety of our streets, and to ensure that all of those are focused on reducing fatalities and injuries. And I'm thinking about it, I think it's a lot like what the city's undertaking right now in terms of looking at racism and equity, that we have to take a big picture look at everything that we're doing related to how the streets are designed, and to some degree the land use, although we do a pretty good job of that here. But all of those things have to be looked at together in order to create a place where people can walk and bike and use the bus safely. And drive safely too. I mean, we have control over the city streets, and so we can certainly address that as well. Let me look here, new share. I think we wanted to also look at, there was one more document we wanted to look at, if I remember correctly. The, yes, our safe systems document. So let me do a new share, since I know now I have to do that for you to see it. There we go. And that I need to make bigger too. Let me see, how do I do that? All right, hang on, let me see what
There's a little plus down in the yeah, bottom right-hand corner.
Bottom right-hand corner. There it is. It reappeared. It went off, flew off to the right. Thank you. All right. And then this, of course, you all have seen, and this is what we've been talking about tonight, that it reframes everything. And this is the kind of information we want to get out, you know, that we are looking at traffic deaths as preventable, focusing on system failure rather than individual actions, reducing the impact when a collision does occur, adopting an overall safe system approach, having the decisions be data-driven, and that road safety is a social equity issue. And one of the main things is that, and the Families for Safe Streets also talks about this, that, you know, everyone who drives is going to get distracted, tired. You know, there are a variety of things that happen. People are fallible, and system needs to be designed so that when we have a failure of behavior, we don't have a fatal crash. And that's what this document is talking about, that we're not basing the system design on expecting people to behave without failure, and that when failure occurs, it doesn't result in fatality. So that's the kind of information that we want to get out, and to help start changing that conversation and overall framework for how we do business.
I think those are great. I like the safe systems. It's just a 2-page document. It's pretty, you know, easy to absorb. And I like your draft letter, maybe with some links to additional information. I was thinking once we get the potential members narrowed down some, maybe it'd be better to actually send hard copies of the you know, the safe systems, and a little bit of stuff like, you know, 5 or 6 pages that kind of explains it, and would I think do a better job of getting somebody excited about it, rather than, I get so much email now with attachments, and I get 100 emails a day and delete 80 of them just from looking at the subject line, you know. So I think actually sending out hard copies of some of this stuff would be good to help get people interested in it.
Well, bless you, Bill. I spend as much time throwing out mail as I do deleting emails. But if I had something from the city, I would look at it usually, because for all I know, they're telling me that I need to mow my grass or something. And, just,
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. So should we have a target for when we're going to be having a meeting? Shall we revise our timeline? Because I think I'm not sure exactly when we'd want to do the press release. Any ideas on that? The mayor has signed the resolution, but we haven't gone forward with a press release just yet. I think until we've decided on a task force, maybe it's premature.
I think I'd like to maybe propose the final list of task force members, and if EPAC is comfortable giving that responsibility to the committee, we could put that together and forward it to the mayor's office. And because I think doesn't the invitation need to come from the mayor?
Yes, I think so, for sure.
So we could do that and draft the letter of invitation, the list of proposed members, and send that to the mayor. How does that sound, Bill?
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's a way to sort of gauge interest and have. So you're talking about actually having names, or just having organizations, or some combination?
Well, I think we have to just have a contact person for the organization. We can't dictate to them who they appoint. And so in some cases, like at the Park District, Tim's probably going to say, well, I think Kara should do it. So, I think that's how that's going to work. But I think we just need to have a contact. Maybe what we should do is say organization and then contact, and have that be the contact list, so that then the mayor can send that out.
Well, in the age-friendly group, they had, for example, they asked Urbana to send a representative, and Urbana sent someone from someone from Carl or something, someone from Uni High. You may recall that Diane put out a call for nominations for this. It was a year or two ago.
Oh, okay.
And so some in that particular case, yeah, she asked who would represent Urbana on this group, and apparently someone from Uni High, Marianne Downey, applied. But we certainly would need decision makers as well. It can't just be someone representing the city. But it's a mix, because an influencer doesn't have to be, the decision maker.
So yeah, I think I'm comfortable with the committee coming up with the list.
Okay.
And if you need help, can always send something to Shelby, and she can forward it to everybody, and we can forward recommendations or something. But I think
that's a good idea.
You had contacts for a lot of those, but maybe some of the neighborhood associations or something like that, you might need input. But if you need any input, just broadcast a request and we can provide input.
Yeah, and I want to make sure we don't end up with 40 people. You can't operate with a task force with 40 people. So we do need to try and keep it within a reasonable number.
Well, on the other hand, though, we really want many people on board. I mean, we want the message to be, we want as many change makers as we can get. And that's where I wonder if we need to, I don't know, we don't have any budget, but do we need to have a high profile speaker or something come in? And we've talked about this before, having a workshop.
We did, but we don't have any funding. We could apply for funding, and we could work with some of the groups on campus, but based on my past experience, a task force of 40 people simply will not function. And we just cannot have that many people on a task force. I think what we can do is engage more people and get more input from people. But in terms of the people who review the information and make the recommendations and work on the plan. 40 people is just, we just cannot operate that way. I've tried to do things like that before and it just doesn't work.
Is there an ideal number of people?
Well, that depends on who you talk to. I would say 15 really is a maximum number, and to have a group work on a plan. To have people serve as, in an advisory capacity is slightly different than having people help develop a plan. And there's a difference in function there.
How have other cities handled this? Do they have like a large task force and then a subgroup of that actually develops the plan, or do they just?
They've had a very large task force, but they have had the city basically develop the plan usually, or a consultant. But they, clearly, and I don't know if the task force ever has an actual vote on the plan. Maybe they do. I'm not sure if I have not seen that in the minutes that I've looked at so far. That's a question. When they did the traffic stop task force, did they vote to accept the report? Is that how that worked?
I think they did, and then once it was presented, I think the city council just accepted it or something like that, voted to accept it. And then their implementation steps, they're still ongoing, but I think the task force did vote on it, yeah. But it was
different than a plan.
There were less than 15 people on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there were 11, I believe.
Yeah.
Of course, you can start off with a bigger invitation list because not everybody will participate or engage. So that's another issue. But.
Okay, so just to back up, I just want to make sure I'm on board with all this. So basically, there will be a task force. It's formed. It's going to say this is what the Vision Zero plan is. Then what are next steps after that? Right? Am I?
Well, the plan's going to take quite a bit of time to do, and once we have a plan, then we would implement it.
Okay. All right. And does the task force oversee that, or what's the relationship of what I'm trying to figure out?
I'll just say on other plans I've worked on, you can have key stakeholders that you engage early in the process. So I would envision, you have 40 to 50 key stakeholders, and then this task force would be a smaller group of 10 to 15 people that you would engage periodically throughout the planning process to give you feedback. And then you would have,
you're on the right track.
Yes, and then you would have frequent workshops open to the community where they can come in and go to neighborhood association meetings and say, hey, this is what we're doing. And then, you draft your plan based upon all that input.
Mm-hmm.
And usually there's one or two people that draft the plan, right?
Yeah, right. So Cynthia, you were working with a class, did you had an idea on how that would get drafted, right?
Well, the student, the class that we were working with is the communication and outreach plan. And that would be, they would put together a plan for us for how to best get input, and we might be able to get them to help us gain input as well. But that was the first step was we wanted to both get input and educate the public. That those two steps were necessary for us to even develop the plan.
Well, I still think that one of the best things that Urbana has going for it is that we have such we have a lot of plans that even Charlotte, I don't think, had.
That's true.
Even with all that they have, so that in some ways, our entire planning process is kind of an educational culture change process. It's simply getting that information out there. It's sitting in great RPC reports. Who's looking at them? Who's heard that Urbana's got a real problem? by putting this out there, we're raising awareness and consciousness. And so it's really, you know, we do have a really good head start compared to a lot of communities, even as far as I can tell, compared to Arlington, Virginia. We've got statistics. We aren't going to have to do the kind of collecting statistics that some of these places have to do, because they, like Columbia, because they haven't been doing it, and we have. It's just a matter of studying it, being aware that it exists, and getting it out there. And talking to the police. I mean, of particular interest is the new enforcement plans of the Urbana Police. That's a fantastic Vision Zero. That's already a Vision Zero win, to turn their attention to the high injury or high crash rate areas.
Yeah, you know, the thing I was thinking about later, though, is that those high crash rate areas, you know, 90% of our crashes are vehicular crashes, or probably more than that, probably 95%. So I wonder if they're really going to pick up the areas
Pedestrian.
for pedestrians and cyclists in those hotspot areas. We'll have to follow it and you know, be vigilant on that. But just
so Bill, I have a question. We also had another item on the agenda, and we've got 20 minutes left. I didn't want to suck all of the oxygen out of the room. If Annie, I didn't know if Annie or somebody else was going to present on that, since we had that one more item on the agenda.
Yeah. Do you have enough direction for us from now? Or,
I think so. Does anybody else have anything else they wanted to share or ask? Okay. Thank you all. We appreciate it. And thank you to Audrey for pulling a bunch of materials together for us tonight.
Thanks, Cynthia.
Okay, so the next item is update on pedestrian streets. Did anybody have an update? Annie, anyone?
Yes, I have a presentation I would just like to share with everybody on where we're at with the process. Let me I'll just show you the presentation, and then we'll just go from there. All right, so I'm gonna hit share screen, go to my PowerPoint, I hit share, boom. All right, everyone can see that, right?
Carl.
Okay. That's correct. If anyone knows, I've moved recently, and so this is near my house. Urbana slow streets. So this is what we've come up with. We're just calling it Urbana slow streets. And then this is just a photograph showing Carl. This street here tends to easily gets way more foot traffic than car traffic, foot, bike, all kinds of traffic, than motorized vehicle traffic every day. And people feel very safe using the street. And so I'm just showing that there's a 4-foot sidewalk next to a 24-foot street. And as you can see, the sidewalk ends. There's only a sidewalk on one side of the street. And that's kind of what happens a lot in a lot of these neighborhoods. So what are slow streets? First off, the picture in the background is a parkway that was closed to residents in Minneapolis in 2020. So let me move out I've got you all there. Slow streets are specific residential streets that discourage through traffic to allow people to walk, bike, run, and roll safely on the street. They support safe physical activity while maintaining proper physical distance. So a 4-foot sidewalk would not really allow you to have a 6-foot distance from a stranger. People driving must drive slowly and always stop for anyone in the road. Emergency vehicles are permitted on slow streets. There's no change in parking on slow streets. You can still park on your street. You can still get deliveries. You can still have services and service vehicles. All right. So this picture is in the background again, another from 2020. Downtown Monticello has closed down a bunch of portions of their downtown area. Pretty much half the street has been closed down for residents to dine. So why are slow streets necessary? Why can't people just use the sidewalks and parks? Many sidewalks throughout the city of Urbana do not allow for the minimum of 6-foot distancing required by health authorities. In some neighborhoods, sidewalks are crowded or non-existent, and people are using the street to maintain proper distance from others. So people are currently using streets in this manner. Slow streets allow youth to be active within earshot of working caregivers, which is a big sell for people because right now parents would have to bundle everybody, like people are working full-time from home, their kids are full-time at home, and it's very difficult to say, okay, you know, normally you would have a physical break outside, and this way it'll allow people to let their kids outside and they would not have to cross busy streets. Slow streets provide a wide, comfortable space for people to walk, run, and roll and get outside to stay healthy. This is another picture from 2020. This is the incredibly busy Green Street, tons of traffic on that street. And the city of Champaign did close down sections of that street to allow people to social distance and enjoy some drinks. I believe it's outside of Cam's. It is. Will emergency service, will emergency service garbage pickup deliveries still be able to use the streets? Yes. Only through traffic for private vehicles is prohibited. All city services will continue to operate as normal, but are expected to drive slowly and yield to people on the street. Who else has done this? And in the background, you had another picture from 2020. St. Joseph's in Illinois, they shut down a bunch of their streets. They have, I think, 3 different sections where they've done things like this for people to sit outside. So half a street closed to traffic for residents in downtown St. Joseph's. All residential streets in St. Joseph's are 25 miles per hour. So who else has done this? 100 cities in North America have, over 100 cities in North America have opened and shared streets to non-vehicle users. 74 miles, 10% of streets in Oakland, 14 shared street corridors in Chicago, who I guarantee you has way more traffic than we do, 20 plus miles of open parkways in Minneapolis. And then there's hot links in the presentation to these different things. And the next slide continues with who else has done this. We thought it was important to highlight cities that were similar sizes to us. And again, this background picture is the street that was closed to traffic for residents in Chicago. And as you can see, there's just a yellow pop-up sign in the middle, caution children playing. Cars are still parked on either side of the street. So Somerville, Massachusetts, population 80,000. Modified 7 miles. Providence, Rhode Island, population about 100, a little under 180, 13 miles. And they lowered speed limits to 10 miles per hour. Burlington, Vermont, population about 42, almost 43,000. They modified about 27 miles. Bend, Oregon, population 93,000, modified 6 miles. So, what do we need to create slow streets? A street closed to traffic for residents in Oakland, California. So I think these are a lot of things that we have seen in the past for construction. When there's construction work going on, you'll see large orange cones, you'll see pedestrian crossings on A-frames, you'll see road closed to through traffic signs. So there are things that are already in a lot of cities' toolkits for slowing or closing down streets. So soft closure barriers at the intersections is key to creating self-enforcing street structures. Road closed to through traffic signs, A-frame signs, and barricades, orange cones, and those big like orange channelizer drums are what folks are using. And then this last picture where streets were closed in downtown Urbana in 2016 and 2017 for a series of First Fridays. And people seem to really quite enjoy that. Now I do have another slide that has a timeline on it, but I think I just want to stop here real fast and see if anyone has questions before I go ahead to the timeline. Or thoughts, concerns, ideas?
Thanks, Annie. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I just wondered how Burlington could have made 26 miles slow streets. That what did they do? Declare the whole city? It seems pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was, so Brianna it's kind of a neat task force. I mean, it's interesting working with people who have like doctorates and other degrees who are like, I was just like, you give me the numbers, I'll make it happen here. So she does like mapping, and different things, but she was just like, here, Annie, here are like, because we had that other first slide with like the bigger cities, and she's like, here, Annie, she's like, here are 4 cities that are similar sizes that are I said, where'd you get this information? And she goes, oh, I got it from, and I was like, okay. So yeah, so you can look, I can send out a PDF of this. There's hot links to different things. There is one person who's collecting all this data, and that's really where the main source of information is coming from. But yeah, a lot of cities are just, they just want people outside moving around more. Yeah, so safely.
Yeah, I think, Annie, one of the things that we would have to do is develop the criteria for which streets could qualify as slow streets.
Oh, shoot, where was that slide? Did I not have that slide? Oh, shoot. Maybe I skipped ahead. I thought I was missing a slide. Ha! Here it is. How are that cat, man? I'm gonna lose my job because of that cat, I think. How are slow streets? I can't read the top. How are slow streets decided? Thank you. Community input. Okay, so again, I knew there was another Chicago slide. So street closed to Chicago through traffic in Chicago, Illinois. Again in 2020. Community input and coordination with local officials. Residential streets with dense neighborhoods, no active bus routes. Already quiet streets that would be used by children and others for play.
Thank you. Yeah, because the picture, the last picture you had showed a street on the left that, could potentially be a slow street, but the one on the right was Main Street, which of course would not qualify. That was, yeah. And Main Street though could be an open street event, which is really what First Fridays was an open street event. But yeah, so I just wanted to make sure we had that clear in this discussion.
Yeah, because this is, so if I go ahead to because we're thinking of what we wanted to do was to create a slideshow that we could share to start gathering input from folks about it. So again, this is another picture from St. Joe's. For me, a lot of these photos are funny. There's kind of a Where is Waldo? My husband is in a couple of them. So there's, so this is in downtown, this is the Wheelhouse.
And the Kickapoo Trail.
Yep, right off the Kickapoo Rail Trail, and they just converted their parking lot to outdoor dining. So we were thinking a timeline would be to present this slideshow to residents and to alder people, March, share back to VPAC what the feedback was. Are we on track? Are we off track? Are people interested in this? Do they think we're nuts? What's going on? April, present to City Council. May, choose 2 streets for June 2021 pilot projects. June, work with residents, city, and alder persons on rollout. So that was kind of that's sort of where we're at with it. So I don't know if there's.
When did new City Council members take office, Bill?
I think it's May 1st, or the first meeting in May.
Yeah, so I think you might want to switch the presentation to May because presenting it to the City Council in April will be to people who may not be there. And some people are retiring, like Bill, which is sad for us. But we would want the new City Council, I think.
If you do it after the election in April, usually the new city council is watching anyway. And it's
okay.
Vote, so, and even now, most of the people running are watching.
So do it later in May after the election.
If you need
April, excuse me.
Need to vote on something, you'd probably want to have it in May.
Mm-hmm.
Just FYI for you guys.
And just a question.
Mm-hmm.
What are alder people? I just don't know that term.
Oh, yeah. I could say aldermen and alder women. I just went with alder people. I know it's weird.
City council members.
Oh, well, there's aldermen. We have alder. Yeah, our city. Oh, that's a nice way. I could have just said city council members. There we go. Thank you. I was struggling.
Some
with that one.
communities, they do call them aldermen. So
Yeah.
terminology that is frequently used more often back east than here, but.
I think in the Illinois statutes for the strong mayor form, they usually call them aldermen.
Oh, do they?
Locally, we've decided we're going to try to focus on calling us council members.
Okay, great. That's really helpful. Yeah, before I was just like, I don't know, they're not all men, and I know that's not, I don't know, like, I was just like, there's got to be a better word, and I know it doesn't, anyway, yeah, so council members, I will switch that up. I was also wondering, I don't think we need a slide with all of our names on it. I'm not sure what the point of that is.
So basically, alder means committee or council.
It'll be the council members, yeah. So essentially, we want to talk to people in the community. Yeah. That's what we want to do. It's a council members. So alder people are. Yep. It's not elder people. Change it to an e. Nope. I know it's a weird word. I was struggling.
Yeah, I
appreciate the question. Yeah, I was struggling because I was like, I don't think this is right, but they're not all men, and I don't know, maybe men works. I don't know. Yeah. So. Yeah, does anyone else, Sue, does anyone else, I was gonna say, Sue, does anyone on the committee have anything to add? I know Deborah's on the committee. I don't know. Brianna, I suspect, is not listening in. Does anybody?
No, I can think of some real candidates for locations, including my little stretch of the woods. But it would be worth, it'll take some good time and community involvement to find right places to do it, and I think we should.
Yeah.
Hey, Annie, how long do you envision the street being closed for? Is this like a week or the whole summer? Or what typically would somebody apply for?
Yeah, technically, I think it's just for the summer until, you got to get those street cleaners out there for the leaves. Some cities just keep them up year round. Some cities just start getting grant money to alter their streets permanently. And some cities just take them down altogether and say that was complete failure. So it just kind of
pilot project. Annie,
that's right.
Have a specific timeline to do comparisons of before and after.
Yeah. So that's the, So we would want to make sure that it was.
Annie, in regards to city staff commitment, you would envision somebody just taking out like a sawhorse at the beginning of the summer, put it down at the both ends of the street, leave it up till the end of the summer, and I think you'd mentioned previously when a car approaches this, they just move it, they get out of their car, and then move it back. And then they do that the whole summer.
They can go around.
No, you could just do, you would probably just set it up like that, because basically it just slows you down from taking that right-hand turn in your car. Instead of blindly taking the curb, you slow down and you go, oh, I must look, and go a little slower. It's the self-enforcing street structure. So that's the other, let me show you another picture here. I don't want to make everyone sick, but right there, there's another one.
So it's like having a manhole that you're working on all summer, and you just have this permanent blockade around it.
Well, and I think depending on where, I think if you are working with a neighborhood and they want this, you can also have local representatives whose job it is to oversee those signs and everything and make sure they're there and in place and that sort of thing. So I would think we would want some, I don't know what you want to call them, representatives or community engagement.
We could call them street angels.
We could.
It's like other, like if this is something people are interested, technically we could apply for art grants, because what other cities do is they will build instead of this road closed to traffic local only, they would actually have community members build garden boxes, and then you paint the garden boxes, or you would actually begin to personalize the street and create street furniture that makes it feel like that neighborhood. But I think for just a pilot project to see if this is something people are interested in, if it would be helpful to our community, I think that's kind of not necessary right now. But yeah. that's what a lot of other people have figured out, like ways to do more of that. Yeah.
Can I add one thing?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so the only thing I want to emphasize to people is that these are low infrastructure treatments, right? Like you literally put up a couple of A-frames, right? And if you've picked a good street, it'll be a self-enforcing street. Drivers will get the hint really fast. And if it doesn't work out, if it's a total dumpster fire, you just pick the signs back up. And when Chicago did this, they did roads on a trial basis. And when some of them were wild successes, they expanded them. And when some of them kind of flopped and didn't see a lot of usage, they just picked the signs back up. So it's not a difficult thing. And they left them up, Chicago, until the first snow plowing season started. So they left them up all summer and fall.
Do you need action from us, Annie?
Kind of needed to make feedback, make sure we were on the right track, make sure we weren't saying anything crazy like Alder people. Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of like battering it around between all of us, like where, what's our minimum, what's our maximum, what's actually implementable for this summer, what, like it was just kind of a lot of, and like Cynthia, you were saying about the large Vision Zero crew, I mean, it is really important to not have a huge crew of people because we wouldn't have gotten to this. We wouldn't have boiled it down to this. We had too many people. So
yeah, I would recommend that you make an application to the community learning lab to get some student volunteers to help you guys with any of this in terms of outreach.
Oh, gee, is that the CU? Hold on a second. I'm going to write down Community Learning Lab.
Yeah.
What is that? Can you be a little more clear on that?
Well, that's a program we've had all of these student volunteers through. It's a campus-wide effort that sort of coordinated out of the School of Social Work. And it's not just social work students, but students from various disciplines. And they put the projects out there and the students volunteer to work on them. And
that'd be great.
I have found them to be very, very good workers. We had great luck with Gajira, and I've used a whole bunch of different interns on the Safe Routes to Parks project. They've gone out and done walking audits, and they've done outreach and drawn maps and done out. They just did all kinds of work. So I think they would find this very interesting.
Yeah, and I think the other important thing that you just mentioned was it's important for us to do before and afters. To say this was Anderson before, this was Anderson after, this is what people thought were wins, this is what people thought didn't work real well. So yeah, that's a great idea.
I think we should just should they send you any feedback they have on this. And
hey, Bill, can we just make a motion that Annie moves forward with the timeline as identified in the presentation? That way, at the end of the summer, when Annie wants to say, hey, the BPAC voted in favor of this, she can point to this meeting and say they actually did.
Okay.
I'd also say, Annie, nice work on the presentation. I appreciate all the work you put into that. That was awesome. Great job.
Yeah, thank you. And it's like, I spent the whole summer, every time, I'm a person, I enjoy eating out. I'll just say it. I like eating out. And so it's, and it kind of kills me to eat out in other cities, but I don't have the same opportunity if I'm riding my bike somewhere and, or if I'm somewhere, I'm going to eat out there. I mean, in Monticello, you had to wait an hour to get any of those. I mean, and then, it depends on the restaurant too, right? Like they're not great restaurants. Yeah. Anyway, enough of that. So I'd also like to say these are cheaper than an ice skating rink. I have heard talk about wanting to put an ice skating rink in somewhere in downtown Urbana, and slow streets are cheaper than ice skating. It's much cheaper than ice skating rink. We'll have way more people using it, and I think would be very successful for community development. So that would just have to put that out there.
Jeff, did you want to make that motion?
Yes, I move that Annie moves forward with the time frame as identified in the presentation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Sarthak. Okay, moved by Jeff and seconded by Sarthak to move to direct Annie and committee to move forward with the Slow Streets timeline as presented. Any discussion? Could we have a roll call?
Bill Brown,
Yes.
Shannon Brannock,
Yes.
Annie Adams,
Yes.
Audrey Ishii,
Yes.
Sue Jones,
Yes.
Cynthia Hoyle,
Yes.
Nancy Westcott, Nancy Westcott,
Sorry.
You just muted yourself. That's okay. She said yes.
She said yes.
okay, thank you. Sarthak Prasad,
Yes.
Jeff Marino,
Yes.
Kara Dudek,
Yes.
Okay, thanks. That motion carries. And thank you, committee and Annie, for the wonderful presentation and photos and everything.
Does anyone want a copy of this, or I'll just obviously share it with Shelby, but does anyone else need it? I will change it to council persons so people don't wonder about the strange thing.
We could post it on People for Safe Streets, Annie, if you want to share it with me.
Okay. Yeah, I was tempted to put it on Facebook, but I thought I would just wait to hear from everybody first before we proceeded.
The last did say Joseph instead of St. Joseph at the bottom. You might.
Man, here's the thing. I went to a Catholic, it's very difficult for me. I went to a Catholic grade school, and the church I attended growing up was St. Joseph's. So it's very difficult. Like I always just want to say St. Joe's because it was just, I grew up with that. So it's very, and I know it's supposed to be St. Joseph's. So wait, what did I do wrong? The last one said St. What?
You made it informal. You just said Joseph.
Oh, Joseph. Yeah, no. So no. All right. I'll be fixing that. No, thank you. Nothing to distract people, Bill. You should not have, as a graphic designer, you want nothing to distract people. You want to stay focused on the content.
Okay, thanks. Okay, so are there any announcements? Maybe next month there'll be more with bike to work or something coming up.
Well, I think we can share that nationally, the official Bike to Work Day is not going to happen. And so what we're looking at is Bike Month being a variety of activities and focusing on education. And Sarthak may want to add to that, but there was discussion with the League of American Bicyclists. And so they're not offering Bike to Work Day as we typically have done it. So did you want to add anything, Sarthak?
Yeah, in the last meeting with the Bike Month planning team, we had discussed the possibility of combining Light the Night and Bike to Work Day. So maybe we could have it in September, but again, it's a bit far in the future. We will start planning the Bike to Work Day from March. Oh, sorry, I think May.
Yeah.
But
we will have Bike to School Day because the schools, it looks like, will be in session. So we're going to have some of the activities, but not Bike to Work Day.
Okay.
At least not in May.
Any other announcements? Okay, thank you all for coming, and I'm sorry I was late. This meeting is adjourned. And we will meet, I'm planning to meet in February. It's just a few weeks away because this one was late, but I think we should keep meeting. We still have quite a bit to do.